If you've followed this channel over the past year, you'll have seen my progress designing and building a 3D printable cartridge to fit Fuji Single 8 cameras. It's now time to release the model so you can have a go with it yourselves. So this video will go into some detail about the release version. Hi, my name's Jenny List, and it's time for another exciting instalment of What's on Jenny's Bench. I'm back after a hiatus due to illness, so sorry to have kept you all waiting. This is version 1.1 of a film cartridge designed to fit Fuji Single 8 cameras, released as open source under the CERN Open Hardware License version 2 Strongly Reciprocal. So what is it? It's a 3D printable shell and parts for a film cartridge to fit Fuji Single 8 home movie cameras. This is a film format for which film was produced from 1965 to about 2010 when it ceased production, leaving Single 8 film enthusiasts without a supply of film. It is possible to load a Single 8 cartridge with film from a Kodak Super 8 cartridge, and that's what this project is intended for. The files can be found in a GitHub repository linked below this video, also in popular 3D printing file libraries. In the GitHub repository, you'll find two CAD files for the OpenSCAD Programmer's CAD system. One contains the cartridge parts and film pulleys, the other contains the reels to hold the film. You'll also find subdirectories for ISO 25 through 200 containing pre-compiled STL files for the different versions of the cartridge. These are the files you'll use for 3D printing. To 3D print them, you will first need the STL files from the relevant subdirectory for your film speed, or to generate them for yourself from OpenSCAD. This will leave you with a file for the cartridge, the lid, the film pulley and the reel. The cartridge and lid each need to be printed once, while you will need two each of the pulley and the film reel. This is a project that requires the best possible quality 3D printer you can find at the highest quality setting in black filament or resin. Use a resin printer if you have one, if not, the highest resolution FDM printer you can find. Rough prints scratch the film, so your sub $200 Chinese printer isn't going to cut it here. If you're new to 3D printing or you don't have a good enough printer, I suggest that you use an online 3D printing service. This is what I did for my final prints, and the extra quality was totally worth the outlay. I used JLC PCB's 3D print service for mine, and in an order of 3 cartridges, each cartridge cost me about $16, including taxes and shipping from China in autumn 2023. I'm not sponsored by JLC, they're just a supplier I and my friends use a lot for PCBs and this kind of work. You will need to put each part in as a separate order item, and don't forget to order 2 each of the pulley and the reel. I selected the cheaper of their 2 matte black resin options for my print. Once you have your prints, I suggest very strongly that you spray the outside of both cartridge bottom and lid with a good quality matte black paint. This will catch any possible light leaks as well as giving a nice surface finish for the cartridge. If you've used an FDM printer, ensure that the inner surfaces are as smooth as you can make them. So now we come to loading the cartridge with film. This is as good a cartridge as I think it's possible to make by these means, but it's still an experimental item and requires care and practice to load correctly. Obviously, any film you wish to shoot must be loaded in the dark, but it's strongly suggested that you practice with scrap or expired film in the light until you understand how it works. Make sure you know what you're doing before you load it with something you intend to shoot, and bear in mind that this is an experimental design before you trust it with valuable film. If you place the bottom half of the cartridge in front of you with the bottom facing down and the area for the film gate facing towards you, the full reel should be on the left, the emulsion should face you, the sprocket holes should be along the lower edge of the film, and the take-up reel should be on the right. Place the 2 pulleys on their shafts in the corners closest to you. Both reels are wound with the emulsion facing inwards and rotate clockwise. The top of the reel has a protrusion with a slot for cameras with a rewind handle, while the bottom of the reel has the opening for the camera shaft. There is a slot in the reel for the film. The film comes off the supply reel on the left and doubles back on itself around the pulley on the left before passing through the film gate area with the emulsion facing you. On the right hand side, it doubles back on itself again to wind onto the take-up reel in a clockwise direction. Now we come to loading the Super 8 film into the Single 8 cartridge. We're aiming to load half a Super 8 cartridge into each Single 8 one, so about 7.5 meters. I'm sacrificing an ancient Kodachrome cartridge for this demonstration. Wind the Super 8 cartridge by putting it in a camera and pressing the shutter button with the lens covered so no light can get to it. Watch the time indicator on the Super 8 camera and stop it halfway at about the 1.5 minute mark. Take the Super 8 cartridge out of the camera and put a little bit of tape on the film. This will allow you to identify the halfway point. Then put the cartridge back in the camera and wind the rest of it until its end. Now break the non-return mechanism on the Super 8 cartridge by turning its reel backwards with a pair of pliers or scissors. You can now cut the end of the Super 8 film and reel it directly onto the Single 8 supply reel. Be very careful to ensure that the emulsion faces in the right direction, towards the centre of the reel, and the sprocket holes are along the bottom. Wind the film onto the supply reel until the piece of tape emerges from the Super 8 cartridge. Then cut the film and put the Super 8 cartridge in a dark place. It has enough film left in it to load a second Single 8 cartridge. When you have a full supply reel, you can place it in the cartridge and thread the film round the pulley, through the film gate area, round the other pulley and onto the take-up reel. Take up any slack with a turn of film round the take-up reel. Now you can put the lid on the cartridge and secure it with two short pieces of masking tape at the sides. You should now be able to take the cartridge into the light and load it into a camera. Now, a word to anyone who wants to sell these cartridges. This cartridge model is open source. That means I have made my design freely available for the Single 8 community to print and use their own cartridges. The license I have chosen is strongly reciprocal. This means that if you modify the design, you must also release it as open source. If you distribute it, or the cartridge is made from it, you must also distribute the URL of the GitHub repository. You can sell these cartridges, but if you do so, I have something to say. The photographic world is full of profiteers, and if that's you, I have something to say to you. It costs well under $20 to get these cartridges printed commercially, less if you produce them in quantity. So I think $30 is a maximum fair price to sell them for. I made this model as a free gift to the community under an open source license because I earn my money as a technical journalist. If I catch anyone selling these cartridges for silly money, I promise this. I will make sure that the world and dog knows about it, and I will undercut you. Try adding value by loading your cartridges with film, but even then, don't take the piss. Right, please, everybody go out and try these cartridges, and let's see what Single 8 is capable of in 2024. I don't have a sponsor for my videos, but as before, I'd like to take a moment to talk about something else I'm involved with. I'm a board member of a small non-profit called Trans Rescue. We exist to help trans people like me escape dangerous and dodgy places around the world. I'd like you to take a look at our website and see what we do, and if you can, help us to continue our work. Thanks very much, and thank you for watching this video.